Yo, 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 what's good with it, y'all? Welcome to the Al Jaheed's podcast. I'm just getting my sources together, y'all. Right on for rocking with me. In the audience, just be patient with me. I'll be right there in a second.
I wanna be in your life until the night is over. I wanna hold you so tight, coming closer. It's been a hell of a night. I got to single moment. You were there by my side. When I get the police on, that's where I go. I'll be there. Oh, girl, I want to be dancing with you forever. Hold you forever. Yeah, my love is burning. Feels like time moves. Night is forever. Every moment's for more. Feelings I've been holding. It must be love. I wanna be in your life until the night is over. I wanna hold you so tight, coming closer. Hold you for life. So tight, coming.
Rock with me, y'all. So with it.
Feeling vibes on vibes. I'm thinking dynamite. I know you can do lights. You know I'm just that type. No, them no big kill my vibe. Them no big kill my vibe. Them no big kill. Them no big kill my eyes are set. Full of the stars. Daddy shine.
Yo, what's up with it? What's up with it? What's up with it to all my Al Jaheed's podcast gang? Welcome to the book of Al Jaheed's, y'all. You rocking with your boy Al Jabiri. What's good with it, man? Or Al Gullah Betty. You know what I'm saying? People that don't know how to pronounce my name, the Mindy, you know, my name is Gullah, but the G is silent in Betty. It's actually Gullah Betty in Mindy language, which means red. Gullah red, you hear me? A red-skinned boy. In Mindy language. But tonight, y'all, I got a treat for y'all. I don't see nobody in the building, but y'all know y'all gonna catch it on the record. Ain't no big thing. Just gonna get my words. I know it's Tuesday. I usually do my show Saturday Night Live. I ain't get to do my show last Saturday, so I'm finna go in tonight just to, you know what I'm saying, just stay consistent with this thing. We finna keep rocking out with this thing. Going to this African history, especially West African history. I've been going in on the Bantu migrations. We still gonna continue on the Bantu migrations, but today I got a treat for y'all. I got a treat for the audience. We're gonna get it back into West Africa. What was going on in West Africa? Because the Bantu migration is an offshoot of a West African migration in any way. And we've been talking about the classical age and the classical age within the Iron Age of the Bantu migration in Eastern Africa, in Central Africa. Talk about Central Africa too in the classical age. These different Bantu migrations, the Ubangi migration which is another Niger Congo migration that went into the Congo, but the Bantu migrations expanded further all the way to South Africa, East Africa, things of that nature. My next show, I'm gonna get back into the Bantu migration and talk about their migrations going south. You know, going into the Zulu, Zimbabwe, the Shona people and other people and getting more into the Swahili culture, coast and the coast. I talk about the beginning of those eastern Bantus, but I'm gonna get more in detail in the more recent years from around 300 CE into more current times. But tonight, we're gonna get into West Africa and talk about 1000 BCE to 300 BCE, which is the same time period as the East African classical age, dealing with a lot of the Bantu migrations. And this also is in the midst of the Iron Age. I might also too, the future, I might talk about Northeast Africa during this time period. Because a lot of stuff was going on in Northeast Africa too during this same time period, especially during the Iron Age, getting to Napata, Meroe, even like when the Nubian, like the quote unquote Napatian kings took over Egypt. Or so some people call them Nubians, but I'd rather use the Pacific name for these particular people. But let's get into it, man. I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna show my screen real quick. And please like and subscribe. I appreciate y'all support. Peace, brother Marcus. Okay, as we're gonna get back into one of my favorite books, the Civilizations of Africa by Christopher Ehret. He covers a lot in this book. He covers a lot of history in this book. And it's very, like I say all the time, this book is a very good book for people to understand African migrations, what was going on, because he only just goes to the migration, he goes into the food, he goes into the to the agriculture that these people was practicing, the culture, the languages, the tools, the archaeology. You know, he goes very well into depth into these African cultures and their lifestyles. Okay, show my screen real quick. Get that loaded. Said the chef is about to cook. Oh yeah, right on, Kano. Timmy Turner was good with it, fams. Okay, expand it. All right, all right. Salute. Yeah. Gonna get it in, man. Okay. And African development of commerce, African development of commerce. West Africa, 1000 BCE to 300 CE, which is the same time period of the Bantu Iron Age. What we was talking about last show during the Bantu migration, during what they call the classical age of East Africa, when these Bantu groups were meeting other groups that were already in areas like the South Kushites. They were meeting up with the Batwa. They were meeting up with the Khoisan. But during this same time period, it was a lot of stuff going on back in West Africa, where the Bantus originally came from in the first place. You know, couple thousand years before they even got to the Iron Age, because the Bantu started migrating out of Nigeria and the Cameroon area in West Africa sometime around 3500 BCE, going different direction, following following river paths, and that's why the Bantu migrations took you know it was a fast paced migration. It was slow. I ain't gonna say it was like overnight, you know what I'm saying, something like that. It was slow, but it was fast for what it was, for what the migration was. And it was because the Bantus took a lot of those rivers, those river paths, river highways, you know what I'm saying, all throughout the Congo, the Congo basin. So many different rivers in Central Africa. We talked about the Mushariki Bantus, the Kusi and the Kakasi Bantu, which is the south, which are the southern Bantu, which is the Kusi, and the northeast Bantus, which is the Kaskasi, and they all are part of the Mushariki Bantus, which makes Mushariki is really a Swahili term for east. When I say Mushariki Bantu, I'm really talking about the eastern Bantus. They branched off from the Savannah Bantus, because under the Congo, right directly under the Congo, you have Savannah, Savannah areas. Same way you have right directly north of the Congo, you have Savannah areas there. And these Bantu developed there, and and the Eastern Bantus branched off from those groups. But tonight we're going to talk about, the early commerce in the Western Sudan region. When we say Western Sudan, we're talking about West Africa, yo. Said Breeze, what's up with it? We talking about West Africa, yo. That's the Western Sudan. And as I talk, as we've been, as the bigger migration I've been talking about through this journey and through these different shows, as I've been talking about the Niger Congo migrations. As we know, as I said before, if people haven't seen them shows, check them out. The early proto Niger Congo, the ancestors of the Niger Congo peoples, who probably spoke Niger Kaddofian languages or proto Niger Kaddofian. There's certain scholars that I studied, what I'm saying, prefer to, like Christopher Ariad, Roger Blanche, they they would have came from actually from western parts of actual modern Sudan. And in scholarship, they call from that area, from the western parts of Sudan all the way to West Africa, you know what I'm saying, through the Western Sahels. That's what it's called, the Western Sudan region. Even Chad, you know, going through Chad and all them regions, those are part of Western Sudan. Okay. South, okay. Early commerce in the West Sudan region. And we talking about, as again, we talking about an African development of commerce in West Africa, 1000 BCE to 300 CE. South of the Sahara, the drier savannas and steppes of West African Sudan, a distinct and independent West African commercial revolution took shape between 1000 BCE to 300 CE. The roots of these developments, as far as we can see now, trace back to the towns of Techet. We talked about Techet, you know, the stone buildings of Techet that's in southwestern Mauritania, modern day Mauritania. In those Techet regions, you would have had in those Techet regions, you would have had you know, proto Niger Congo people living in those regions, particularly proto Mindi. The proto Mindi, you know what I'm saying, live in those areas. And these would have been some of the early, you know, where some of the early development of statehood came from in West Africa. So see, a lot of people don't know that. Like a lot of people think, oh, you know what I'm saying, with this whole diffusion theory about, you know, Egypt being the ones who brought, you know, statehood to West Africa. And that's not true. We had our own style of statehood, our own kind, you know, so that's just a human thing. You know what I'm saying? Tribalism, and even some portions of tribalism is already have the recipes, already have the recipes to form a proto state, or what could be later on a state. You can't get to statehood without tribalism. It starts with that. And they say the towns of Techet in the second millennium, and not to the contemporary first commercial revolution of the Mediterranean in the Middle East. I'm gonna go back to that. Go read that over. The roots of this development, as far as we can see now, trace back to the towns of Techet in the second millennium, and not to the contemporary first commercial revolution of the Mediterranean and the Middle East. All around the Jof Basin, the middle Niger, and to the lesser extent in the Chadic Basin. See, I told you the Chadic is still part of Western Sudan. In the middle, in trading towns, manufacturing centers, and long distance commercial relations grew and prospered. One key element in this indigenous development of commerce was the wider adoption of reliance on metals across the whole Sudanic region. So I told y'all, you know what I'm saying, the metals was very important, especially iron. That's why I always say that to debunk these people that got these theories about migrations from West Africa to the Americas, in some type of trade with these West African Native Americans. When the Europeans showed up to North America, or even America's period, I ain't mean to say North America, but the America's period. When the Europeans and the conquistadors came to the Americas, most of the Native Americans was basically still in the Stone Age type. you know what I'm saying, lifestyle development. They didn't have iron. When they came in contact with West Africans, it would have been some iron involved. If we talking about trade. See, you see, we don't even gotta really even debate those type of things. We can just sit here and talk about the actual facts and what was going on. We just sit here and talk about commerce. We just sit here and talk about commerce of West and Central Africa, and it's gonna debunk all these other theories about West Africans and Americans. Period. And they say one key element. Okay, one key element in the indigenous development of commerce was the widening of adoption of reliance of metals across the whole Sudanic region. African artisans, as we have seen, independent of the Middle East, brought into being a copper smelting industry in the air range of the far southern, the air, when they talk about the air range, talking about the air mountains, the air range of the far southern Sahara over the course of the third and second millennium BCE. And we talked about that earlier on another channel. We talked about how probably the ancestors of the Songhai, you know what I'm saying, were some of these people who developed these copper developments in the Ur Mountains. The iron is a different story. Iron developed more so in the Central African Republic, in the Western Central African Republic, among the Adamawa and the Ubangian population, and it spread it out through the Sahel and through some of the equatorial belt, which is directly beneath the Sahel. And if people don't know what the Sahel is, the Sahel is a stretch, is a it's a spread of like grassland and shrubland that stretches from West Africa all the way to East Africa. We talking about the Western, we talking about the Western Sahel, you know what I'm saying, more so in West Africa, what they call the Western Sudan. And it's right directly underneath the Sahara, modern day Sahara. At first, the Sahel would be, when the Sahara was green, the Sahel would have been more, more higher. You know what I'm saying? But now it's just the leftovers or the margins of the desertification of the Sahara. And they say copper smelting industries in the air range of the far southern Sahara over the course of the third and second millennium BCE. Africans in the middle of Africa also began to smelt and forge iron in the second millennium. And that's 2000, that's like 2000 BCE. You know what I'm saying? Second millennium. And between 1000 and 500 BCE, this technology spread across the Sudan belt. You know what I'm saying? From coming from these people, from these Adamawa, Ubangian people. It spread to the east, the Sahel, you know what I'm saying? And influenced the Central Sudanians, who these Nilo-Saharan groups, you know what I'm saying? These more tropical Nilo-Saharan groups. And when the band during the time, like I said, during the midst of the Bantus, I said this on another show. In the midst of the Bantu migration, remember when the Bantus migrated out of Nigeria and parts of Cameroon, they didn't have iron at that time. They didn't get iron. The Bantus didn't get iron until they got to uh, the lake region. Particular Bantus. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say particular Bantus. The Bantus that already had spread it out. When they got iron not until they got to the lake regions, you know what I'm saying, from the central Sudanian people who adopted the trade anyway from the Adamawa Ubangian people from the central, the middle Africa, you know what I'm saying, the Central African Republic. But the Bantus who would have stayed, like certain Bantu communities that would actually stay in Cameroon and Nigeria, because all the Bantus didn't migrate out, you know what I'm saying? They were like one big migration, you know what I'm saying? It was still populations of Bantu or Bantoid, grass field speakers, you know what I'm saying, in certain particular regions. And they would have, they would eventually got iron, you know what I'm saying, iron spread to them, but it would have been directly, from the West African spread, you know what I'm saying, of the Sudan belt. And they say metal ores, particularly those of copper, are quite unevenly disputed around the globe. To obtain copper, people in most of West Africa had to avail themselves of truly long-distance networks of trade. Iron ores, in contrast, were present in many more parts of West Africa. And so the production of iron accomplished for local and interregional exchange relations. What copper trade did on a wider scale for Sudan Belt as a whole. Each required the transport of a product, increasingly in demand as the first millennium BCE wore on over greater or lesser distance. They thus require specialist traders and effective means of transport to move the product to distant prospective buyers. Donkeys known in West Africa probably since the arrival of Chadic speaking peoples in the Chad Basin in the Chad Basin several thousand years earlier, rapidly became we suspect the import beast of burden in the newly emerging commerce of the Sudan Belt. And it's like early, it's like, because it wasn't no camels then. Camels weren't domesticated then. So they had to use some type of animal burden. What's good with it, Sosa? What's up with it? So the Chadic people, the Afro-Asiatic speaking Chadic people, you know what I'm saying, or the Proto-Chadic people would have brought, the camel, not the camel, but the donkey to, what I'm saying, to West Africa from Chad. And they most likely would have got it, what I'm saying, from, the Cushitic people, in East Africa, because the Cushitic must have spread that way. Because the Cushitic people, or the Proto-Cushitic people were supposedly the people who domesticated the donkey. But you still have the East African wild ass in that area, which is like a more basal relative to the donkey, and it's wild. And also the Chadic people would also been a part, would have been also part of what's called the Capsian culture, which the actual Berbers were part of too. You know what I'm saying? Proto-Berbers would have been the northern arm of the Capsian culture, and the southern arm of that culture would have been the Proto-Chadic people. You know what I'm saying? Before they spread, amongst, these Nilo-Saharan groups that was already in, these areas. We had a big, the big Chad, mega Chad. Chad was big during the Green Sahara region. a lot of these groups started to settle, you know what I'm saying, settle and become, become one group as the desert, as the desert started to dry out. People started to merge, and if you look at the Chadic people today, they probably didn't look like how they looked a long time ago. A lot of them had a lot more, Nilo-Saharan, admixture, you know what I'm saying, or a lot of Nilo-Saharans adopted Chadic culture. And they say, among the Middle Niger River, an equally important alternative form of transport by boat soon began to shape the directions and impact of the trade there. Another kind of manufactured ware that early rose to the importance in the commerce was cotton cloth. In the first millennium CE, cotton textiles may already have been key commodities in the towns of the bend of the Niger. And considering that we can trace the spinning of cotton back to 5000 BCE in the eastern Sudan, it is probable that weaving spread to the West Sudan even before the first millennium BCE. Because you find cotton amongst, Nilo-Saharan population. Nilo-Saharans, they spread, they spread to the east too. I mean, not to the east, but to the west, especially during the Neolithic period, starting like around 6000 BCE. You know what I'm saying? Where you even had like the Kefians, you found the Kefians in Jabirio, those like old basal, you know what I'm saying, aquatic Nilo-Saharan groups, and then you had West Sahelian groups, later they coming in with pastoralism. You know what I'm saying? These particular pastoral Nilo-Saharans came in, and even the Central Sudanians, they Nilo-Saharans too. Found a lot of them around like southern Chad. Peace to the chat. Peace to the chat. Okay. Okay. Now we're gonna get into social and political change in West Africa's first commerce age. See, she started to change. You know what I'm saying? Like uh, West Africa was starting to become more urbanized, and I talked about that too. On another channel, we talked about, what I'm saying, the urbanization of West Africa. When we was talking about we was talking about Teche and things of that nature. And they say over the course of the first millennium BCE, the new economic relations had strikingly social consequences for the peoples living in the inland delta. When they're talking about inland delta of Niger. And people that don't know, shit, the Niger River got two deltas. You know what I'm saying? You got the delta, that leaks out into the Atlantic Ocean. You know what I'm saying? That sits around like Nigeria. I think I forgot what other country next to Nigeria, but like, you know what I'm saying, that it sits in like southern Nigeria. Then Niger have an inland delta, you know what I'm saying, which is further north, have an inland delta too. And they say the social consequences for the peoples living in the inland delta and the surrounding regions, as we learned in chapter 4, as I said, we mentioned this already. The first age of the productive specialization in the region, dating to the third and second millennium BCE, had been characterized by the rise of ethnically based production for market. The bozo, for instance, became fishing specialists in the Delta. And in the Bozo, these are Mende. It's a subgroup of Mende group. And they say while the Marca turned to intensive rice cultivation. So these ones who cultivated rice. Then you had other people who did other things too, like even like probably the ancestors of the Seninke, they had a particular task, something to do. They probably more warriors, merchants. And they say in the new era of the economic specializations of the first millennium BCE, occupational and manufacturing specialization became the pre the preeminent the preeminent means of participation in a greatly expanded trading system. And the new specializations were not ethnically linked, but tended to spread across cultures and across regions. Not ethnic, but social differentiations was the correlate of the new kind of economic relations. The new residential patterns of village clusters founded by skilled artisans accompanied the rise of commerce. In the first millennium BCE, much clusters often form a set of satellite settlements adjacent to the larger central town. For the example best studied and best known so far of this kind of urbanization is Jenin. You know what I'm saying? The city, the area of the city of Jenin in West Africa. A city founded around the 3rd century BCE and located among the eastern bayous of the inland delta of the Niger. And Jenin was an area just like that area was particularly for trade. It's like the markets, you know what I'm saying? Like the markets. And they say, but towns of this kind had already existed in other parts of Sudan, of the Sudan, west of the Delta, and also east of there, along the Niger for centuries by this point in time. Like we told, like Niger Congo people were the people of commerce, yo. We the people of commerce. When I told y'all about the Bantu people in the East African classical age of Africa, in this Iron Age that we talking about, is during the same time period. You know what I'm saying? The Bantus coming from West Africa brought their commerce to East Africa. We brought them markets. We brought them marketplace. Because everybody came in with specializations and shit. We sold this. We sold some people sold shoes. People sold bananas. People sold yams. Shit. You know what I'm saying? They different specialty crops. You know what I'm saying? Like how they were saying it was ethnic based and even during this time in West Africa, it spread over non-ethnic base. We just don't know who had it or not. And they say, but towns of this kind had already we talk about that. The towns already existed. Not Jenin just was a popular, just one that had blew up. It was a big town. But this already was going on, especially like in areas of modern day Mali and Tetchet, even the Tetchet areas, shit. You know what I'm saying? Around southern western Mauritania, which touches Mali. And they say the cluster pattern in urban development lasted right down to recent centuries. When we look at the social and economic characteristics of village clusters of later, better known eras, we discover that each village tended to be the site of a different kind of manufacturing activity. One would be the village of the smelters and smith, another the residence of leather workers, and another place of cotton weaving, and still another the potter's abode. Each village, in other words, had its own occupational specialization. The products of each occupation were then taken to the central market in larger towns near which the artisan villages clustered. There they were brought they were I mean there they were bought by local consumers and also by traders who might carry the items to more distant markets in other localities. Out of this residential pattern, there emerged a social system of occupational castes. A variety of evidence from many areas, both oral traditional and ritual in nature, suggests that the instigators of the new social relations were the iron workers. When the practices of iron metallurgy took hold in the early first millennium BCE, the workers in iron hedged their activities about the taboos and special rituals to ensure the success of their productive effort. And like I told y'all, I just did an interview with my brother Bior from the Kush Royalty Channel. And he interviewed me about West Africa and the culture and development and statehood of West Africa. And I was telling him that if y'all go back and look at that show, he just posted it a couple days ago. It's on his channel. Check out Brother Bior. That's Byor. You know what I'm saying? The young Dinka brother who do a lot of history on Sudan and you know what I'm saying, the Nubian culture. I told him that the ironsmith were looked at as sorcerers or some type of magicians and shit. Like they had like some type of people believe they had some type of special powers because they knew how to manipulate and smelt these minerals. You know what I'm saying? These iron tools and shit. They always had these rituals and these different shit. You know what I'm saying? Before they did that, did these things because this was their special task. Iron was very important. It was very high commodity in West Africa. Iron was everything. It was weapons, jewelry, statues, tools. You know what I'm saying? And they say, hold on, where was it? Okay. And they say, look, they say the workers in the iron hedge their activities about with taboos and special. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Hold on, y'all. I'm checking my daughter calling me. Hold on, I'm right back. Hold on, y'all. All right, I'm back. I'm back, y'all. Baby call me. See what's going on. But yeah, yeah, and they started these people started these caste systems, you know what I'm saying, out of special things that they did, and especially the iron, like the iron workers, they elevated their status. You know what I'm saying? They had a special thing that, you know what I'm saying, that they created. They had the highest commodity, you know what I'm saying, you know, metal, you know what I'm saying, of this society. Iron was even iron was sometimes more valuable than gold to West Africans. Gold wasn't shit to us. It was everywhere at one point in time. We had the gold. Let me say, whether by okay, it say the workers in the iron hedge their activities about with taboos and special rituals to ensure the success of their productive efforts. Whether by conscious intentions or not, the iron workers in this fashion secured their monopoly over the of the import, production of the important new material. So they had a whole monopoly. They, you know what I'm saying? They had the bag. They said as time passed, the production as time passed, other specialist producers, in particular the leather workers, weavers, and potters, imitated the example of the iron workers and began to claim the same kinds of status for themselves and their activities. Like they try to make themselves seem special. You know what I'm saying? Like it ain't same way the iron workers did. Let me say their jobs and their skills came to be passed down from father to son or mother to daughter. At the first, perhaps no more exclusive than guilds. In time, these occupations, like guilds, is like fraternities. You know what I'm saying? These special abilities or these special talents, special skill sets, these particular groups, you know what I'm saying? These groups or casts had. And it said in time, these occupational groupings came to marry only among themselves and so became castes. See, they only, you know what I'm saying? They became more dogmatic. It was good with a Cuban piece. And they say the final step in molding a wider ranging system of mixed class and caste relations in the Western Sudan came with the rise of militarized groups of men under the leadership of of erstwhile Niger Congo clan chiefs, and in some areas of Sudanic central chiefs, seizing power over larger areas than had previously been combined in the single. See, that's what I was saying. Like when I was talking about the Soninke a little earlier, I said, yeah, the Soninke, they probably like the warriors and some of the merchants. But these was like the warrior class. The warrior class, they gonna put that belt, they gonna put that belt to ass. They ain't playing, you know what I'm saying? They gonna take all, they gonna, you know what I'm saying? You work iron, all that, we gonna muscle all that. We gonna extort you, you know what I'm saying? We got the muscle. Say it again, show it again. Say the final step in molding a wider ranging system of mixed class and caste relations in the Western Sudan came with the rise of militarized groups of men under the leadership of erstwhile Niger Congo clan chiefs and in some areas of Sudanic sacred chiefs, seizing power over larger areas than had previously been combined in a single polity, and an effort. Hold on, hold on, y'all. All right. I'm back, y'all. So he say that, you know what I'm saying, these Niger Congo clan chiefs, you know what I'm saying, they came put their built their ass control the region. You know what I'm saying? Molding, you know what I'm saying? This is where the kingships and all this shit come out of. And it say seizing power over larger areas than ever previously been combined in a single polity, in the effect establishing the first real states of the region. The new class of kings and their followers came to view themselves as uh, uh, hereditary ruling stratum, born to rule just as much as the members of the ironworking caste were born to be smelters and smiths. Around the Mendi, hold on. Yeah, okay. And they say, so they say these motherfuckers, they had as much right. They feel they had as much right to be the king, the ruler, as just as the iron workers had. Like this was like it was a skill. And they say born to rule just as much as the members of the ironworking caste were born to be smelters and smiths. Among the Mendi and some of the Atlantic branch of peoples of Senegambia, an additional occupational caste of bards arose under the patronage of this new noble class. Okay. It's an additional occupational caste of bards arose under the patronage of new noble class. The great majority, okay, the great majority of the population who continue to be rural cultivators of the soul and raisers of livestock by default came to form a residential grouping of freeborn people, uncast but not noble either, an additional lower stratum of slaves soon came to be part of the social system too. And them cattle, them people they talking about them cattle herders, and them people that them people that later on, that's where you get your Fulani and all them niggas from. You know what I'm saying? Later on. You know what I'm saying? They start mixing with the Berbers and shit. You say that, because the Mende and some of the Atlantic branches of the Senegambia, where they are related, but there's different branches. And they say the social system, the slaves came part of the social system too. originating from captives, captives taken in the wars of noble class. The resulting social formation had thus a mixed structure, uh, differentiating freeborn people into ruling and peasant strata, while recognizing the existence also of several separate occupational castes of skilled artisans as well as subordinate slave segment of society. Exactly when the rule range of intertwining class and caste relations merge remains very uncertain. During the early first millennium CE, we suspect the system came fully into being among the many peoples of the areas in and south of the inland delta of the Niger, and it may soon after have spread to the Atlantic peoples of the lower and middle Senegambian River areas. And they say this social development reveals something else of importance. It shows us that by that time, those who became the noble class must have already began to and conquest and foundation of early territory states across many regions from the bend of the Niger to the lower Senegal River. And they say, we know nothing as yet about any other particular states of that period from the patterns of the rule evident in the first millennium BCE and after. It seems probable that Sudanic sacral ideas inter, interpin the formation of early kingdoms in the areas inhabited by the Songhai people living east living east of the inland delta and were adopted to by some of the Mindi groups living just west of the southwest of that region along the southern fringe of the Sahara. Further west, so what they saying is this sacred kingship shit, a lot of this king formation and warship type shit came from them, some of these Nilo-Saharan groups that the Mende people was mixing, intertwined with it, trading with, mixing with. And it probably wasn't even just the Sun guy. It was probably other people that could relate to the Sun guy too. You know what I'm saying? In these regions. Say let me say further and say by some of the many groups living just west of the northwest region along southern fringe of the Sahara. Further west and south, the kings in the noble class probably initially evolved out of the clan chief roles of an older Niger Congo type as late as the mid second millennium CE in the kingdoms of the west and southern areas of this region. The older Niger Congo matrilineal basis of chiefly and kingly power still often prevailed. See, they still had their own thing, tied into it too. And it say Jenin, an early urban center of the Western Sudan. I told you it was like an urban center. And it say Jenin, an early urban center of the Western Sudan. The city of Jenin is the example of best known at present of an early West Sudan commercial town. Founded around the 3rd century BCE, Jenin would by no means have been the only such commercial center of its era. Many sites of the equally early towns as well as sites of still earlier towns in the Sudan belt remains to be studied by archaeologists. But its history provides insights about how the West African development of commerce took shape in the later first millennium BCE. What made Janine an especially important participant in those developments was its role as the transshipment point. That is to say, it controlled a location at which goods were transferred from one kind of transport to another. In this case, from boat to donkey, from donkey to boat. We will encounter the salience of the idea of transshipment point again, chapter 6 and 7. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that again, like you know what I'm saying, when we get into further histories of Western Central Africa. See this map. Map there. Talking about this map right here. Let's see this map. Janine right here. Sits right here on the inland delta. Yeah. Get back to the drop though. No. The page I was on. Right on for y'all for rocking with me. Please like, subscribe to the Al Jaheez podcast, y'all. Y'all just coming in. Here we go. And, so I'm gonna have to break this up in two parts. It's a long word. See what it is though. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Oh shit, yeah. Let me get back to this. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. And they say, but its history, like Janine, but its history provides depth insights into how the West Africans developed a commerce. You say how the West African developed, how the West African developed of commerce took shape in the later first millennium BCE. What made Janine an especially important participant in the developments of what was his role as transshipment point, that is to say, it controlled a location at which goods were transferred from one kind of transport to another. In this case, from boat to donkey, from donkey to boat. And you know what I'm saying? It slid up and down that, that Niger Bend, the inland delta region. Right here you got these megaliths, megalithic monuments dating to as early as the 5th millennium BCE occurred in this is in Science Saloon. This is Senegambia. The Science Saloon Kingdom in Senegambia. Even though these monuments are there way before this kingdom was even profound. But yeah, that's what those mounds were found, like from early Niger Congo culture, from early, Atlantic Congo, peoples, migrating to that region. And it's a heritage of peoples of the Sudanic civilization. Uh, let's say, you know, yeah, it's a cure in number of areas inhabited by the peoples of Sudanic civilizations, from Nata Playa in the east to the Air Mountains in the west. The megaliths shown were probably represent a separate historical tradition. However, the monuments at Science Saloon attested to the developments of connected with the spread of early state building among Niger Congo's peoples in the West Sudan, expanding from the first millennium BCE into the middle of the first millennium BCE. So some of the ideas these Niger Congo people ideas probably did get from some from Nilo-Saharan groups, you know what I'm saying, from the Green Sahara time, and just brought some of the influence to West Africa. And say located amid several commercials of Niger, Janine was Janine was protected by nature from easy attack, while in the same time it could uh, it could control the movement of products carried among the river. Copper, for instance, would have reached Jenin from the east via the Niger. By the first few centuries CE, gold was being transported to the city from the city uh, the opposite direction, passing downstream by boat from mining areas in the Bamboo and Bari regions. That's where the gold mines at. That's them two of the major gold mines of even like Mali and Ghana or Ouagadougou in the region 600 to 800 kilometers to the southwest. From Jenin, merchants could then trade these materials to peoples who live east and west of the Niger. Because the city was situated at the eastern edge of the inland delta, it was close to overland routes traveled by donkey from a major iron producing area fewer than 100 kilometers from the east. Another long important region of iron production, Mima, lie west of the inland delta. At Jenin, iron was unloaded from donkeys, and from there uh, sent sent long distance upstream or down by boat. There you go. And they say finally, Janine lay at sharp into environmental juncture. Extensive fishing and rice growing was possible in the waterways and moist soils of inland delta by the Niger, while all around lay dry savanna country suited to growing sorghum, pearl millet, fonio, and other crops from both old Niger Congo and Sudanic agricultural traditions. So you had a Sudanic element, and so when he say Sudanic, when Christopher ever say Sudanic, he talking about knowledge Saharians and the old Niger Congo traditions. As a result, Janine inhibitors were middlemen in exchange of greatly differing foodstuff between nearby locales, just as much as they as were dealers in the commodities of distant lands. Janine was surrounded by peoples of the distant historical roots to the north and eastward along the Niger, Sudanic in their uh, Sudanic in their civilization, and to the south and west of Niger Congo background. The people of Jenin from themselves spoke a dialect of not a Saharian language, Songhai, but many of their cultural norms, we suspect, drew on Niger Congo tradition. On the political side, early Jenin was probably usually an independent city-state of the actual structure of its government in the early centuries. However, we know nothing. Did trans-Saharan connections have a significant role in these events of the first millennium BCE? From the evidence available to us so far, it appears that we must say no. The commerce of West African Sudan, as it had evolved by the beginning of the first millennium BCE, seems fundamentally rooted in the emergence of a long distance demand for processed goods produced within Sahara and Sub-Saharan Africa, uh, principality copper, the iron, and the last of all, gold. All almost nothing of North African and Mediterranean province can yet be shown to have crossed the desert in these centuries, and nothing at all, as far as we can tell, crossed in trade in other directions. The trans-Saharan commerce in African gold, it now seems clear, did not begin until around 300 CE. The horse did the horse did make it south across the Sahara in the first millennium BCE and became a relatively rare kind of prestige good. Its possession monopolized whenever possible by the ruling segment of society. However, the horse may have been reached, the ancestral Soninke and Songhai peoples, it was surely not a singular item of trade exchange for any northward travels product of Sudan. I told you that, you know what I'm saying, the Soninke were the people of the horse. They were the horse people. And said, as we learned earlier in this chapter, currency in the form of coins appeared as part of the commercial revolution of Eastern Mediterranean. The presence of currency is in fact one of the diagnostic features of the appearance of the kind of trade that can be called commerce. In the northern horn of Africa, the spread of Mediterranean commercial connections uh, after 500 BCE led to the making of coin currency there also. But the great majority of sub-Saharan Africans created a variety of quite different currencies. However, the past 2,000 years, as we will discover in the next several chapters, we did not yet know what kind of currency may have been used, if any, in the earliest stages of indigenous West Africa invention from commerce during the last 2 millennium BCE. The first millennium CE, however, both gold dust and small copper ingots served function in the West Sudan. Right here say society and economy in the West African woodlands and the forests. It say if our knowledge of development in the West in the Sudan belt seems scant, our understanding of the course of change in the woodland savanna and rainforest areas of West Africa, 1000 BCE to 300 CE, is scanted still. In technology, ironworking had probably spread to every region by the beginning of the first millennium, but the course of its spread remains to be studied. The basic areas of culture, the social customs among all of the many small societies of region were rooted in the older customs and beliefs of Niger-Congo civilization. For example, a distant creator god continued to be recognized all across the woodland savanna and forest zones among Niger-Congo speaking society. While ancestor spirits were the central focus of religious observance, newly everywhere in this region, people still live in villages and recognize the ritual, but not necessarily the political authority of clan priest chiefs. West African yam-based planted agriculture continued to predominate the rainforest belt from the modern-day eastern Ivory Coast to Cameroon. Sorghum had already become an additional staple. However, in many woodland savanna locales, in contrast, in the western portion of the rainforest belt in what is today Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, African rice would have been the usual staple of diet. Among the peoples living right at the coast, the innovation of sophisticated technology of rice production accompanied this changeover of diet. The new technology centered on clearly fields along the estuaries of rivers, and the building of extensive dikes and especially uh, constructed drains. The drains allowed the farmers to channel the tidal flow of water of seawater into the field to leave the salt water for a time in the field, thus killing the seeds of potential weeds, and finally to drain the seawater away again. The farmer could then direct river water into the field in order to leach out the salt left behind by the tidal water, and also to deposit a new layer of fertile silt on the land. Much later, in the 17th and 18th century, captive Africans who were taken to the Carolinas of North America brought this technology with them from the Guinea coast of West Africa. Slave owners made use of Africans' expertise and traded and tried to claim the credit for it as well, to turn the coastal areas of colonial South Carolina into a major rice producing region. At least one notable artistic development among Niger Congo people of West Africa among the first millennium BCE in the parts of what is today Nigeria artistry transferred the ancient Niger Congo tradition of sculpture to a new medium terracotta. These early terracotta figures could from the archaeological sites of the peoples who lived in the Nook area of northern Nigeria in the first millennium BCE, and that area seems also to have been home to important iron production before 500 BCE. The art the art has been founded associated with elite burials over the considerable stretch of country. A plausible explanation for the finds and their distribution is the proceeds of the extensive iron production created the material basis for early kingdom, which ruled lands around Nook. The kings and the ruling, we're talking about the Nook culture right now. The kings and the ruling elite of this state would then have had wealth to be able to have patronage to artists, who in turn created the new kind of sculpture. And they say during the first millennium BCE, two trade tended to be carried on mostly at local level through the more southerly regions of West Africa. One interregional trading system, as we learned in chapter 4, may be quite old. However, the predating the first millennium BCE, this system revolved around the exchange of fish and sea salt produced by the Ija people of the waterlogged coastal delta. And the Ija people, that's Burna Boy people. If y'all familiar with Burna Boy, his mother is Yoruba and his father is Aja. You know what I'm saying? From the Delta, you know, from the oil states. Next. Okay. You see some of the Nook heads, the Nook terracotta here. And say in the Niger River, for the yams and other crops of the rainforest, people living inland from them. This triptych of images shows uh, left side, front side, and right side views of one of the few relatively complete examples for the first millennium BCE Nook terracotta artistry so far discovered. Right here. By the first few centuries of the first millennium CE, the commercial development of Sudan Belt began to increasingly be impinged on woodland savannas and forests of West Africa. We have noted already how gold mine and erstwhile woodland savannas by upper Niger and Senegal rivers were traded north to the Sahel, as we call the inlands at the southern edge of the Sahara Desert, by or before the first 3 centuries CE to the east around the lower Niger River. In the southward penetration of commerce may also have begun to be more widely felt by that time. The ironworking technology taken hold for South in Nigeria before the close of the first millennium BCE. It seems probable also that the rising of cotton and weaving of cotton cloth spread southward by this time from Sudan, at least the woodland savannas at the north edges of West Africa rainforest belt, both in Nigeria and in the Volta River regions to the west. The full impact of these influences belongs to the periods after 300 CE, however, as we shall discover in chapter 7. Kind of it right there, y'all. Just sit right there, y'all. Right on for rocking with me tonight. Appreciate him. See, you might want to join the panel. See y'all, anybody have any thoughts? If not, I'm just shut it down. But I'm gonna open up the floor. Anybody want to come in and rap with me real quick or just expound on what we just talked about. Um, you want to join the show, y'all can join the show, build with me, whatever. Nah, I'm gonna shut it down. Continue to banter migration. I'm just give it a little minute. Now I'm gonna shut it down. It was a weekday, it's only Tuesday. Yeah, but I'm gonna shut it down, man. Right on for rocking with me. Appreciate the views. Appreciate y'all support. You know what I'm saying? Word to the chat. Salute to the chat. Salute to my followers. Like and subscribe to this channel. Push that ding button. Get more shows like this. We're gonna continue it. We'll tell you the bantu migrations. I might think about I might do a show Wednesday or something. Might do a specialty show or something. Might not even on this type of tough subject. But after that, I'm gonna continue the bantu migrations. The Niger Congo migrations, period. All right, y'all. Peace out, man.